Go out.
No, I want him
Thanks for
out.
joining us on
I just put my
69
phone
News
there
at
for
9.
squirrels. I want him out.
Visit WFNZ.com and download the 69 News app.
And join us for more news at noon. I'm Hasio Cordoba.
I'm Karen Millett. Have a great day.
Take care.
You claim that that's not your signature?
Boy, it looks exactly like the signature on this letter.
I understand that you have a video. Roll the video. Oh my God.
Hot bench.
Weekdays at 10 on WFMC. Attention. If you have Medicaid and live in Pennsylvania and need assistance with daily living, you can receive a 100% free service and get help in the comfort of your own home by a loved one. Call Freedom Care now so you can receive daily help preparing meals, bathing, doing laundry, receiving transportation, and more. All done by a family member or friend that gets paid to be your caregiver. You get to decide who provides your care, and your caregiver gets paid weekly. It's all funded by Medicaid, so it's 100% free to you. Call in the next 10 minutes to see if you qualify. The Freedom Care family will explain the process, making it stress-free for patients and caregivers. Freedom Care is a leading choice for home care in Pennsylvania and has received over 5,000 five-star reviews. They've been helping families for years. This service is 100% free to you through Medicaid. So call right now and see how fast you can get started with Freedom Care. Serving Eastern Pennsylvania and Western New Jersey. This is WFMC TV. We needed the laser's maintenance. The two lasers were correctly fixed.
It is not in my best interest to keep the lights on.
What did they fix? What happened? Hot bench. Judge Rachel Juarez. Judge Michael Corriero. Judge Jodit Tewalde. 3 judges, 3 opinions, 1 verdict. This is Hot Bench.
Your Honor, this is case number 182 on calendar, King versus Agancia.
Thank you, Officer Mariano. Mr. King,
Yes.
you're suing the defendant for $5,000.
Correct.
You are the owner of a not-for-profit, which is called the New Skin Tattoo Removal.
Correct.
And you do that.
Yes, we
And in order to do that, you use certain machines.
correct.
Jesus Christ.
So, Christina, this morning we are hearing from a member of Russia's aviation department saying that during the incident, the area around Grozny Airport was, quote, very complicated and added Ukrainian combat.
Get over here.
Were actually carrying out attacks at the time. Also noting that the aircraft tried to make 2 attempts to land the plane, but that they were unsuccessful. All of this while a tempest of questions swirled.
This morning, new clues about what may have brought down this Azerbaijan passenger jet in a fiery crash, killing 38 people on board. New footage shows holes in the jet's fuselage and what experts say appears to be shrapnel damage, evidence the plane may have been downed by Russian forces, according to a growing number of government officials and aviation experts. A theory conflicting with the Kremlin's narrative that a bird strike caused the crash. The Azerbaijan Air passenger jet with 62 passengers and 5 crew on board had taken off from Baku, Azerbaijan early Christmas Day, heading to the Chechen capital of Grozny in southern Russia, an area where U.S. officials say Moscow has used air defensive systems against Ukrainian drone strikes in recent months. Russian officials say bad weather diverted the aircraft across the Caspian Sea. They say the plane experienced a failure in its control systems and an oxygen tank had exploded in the cabin, causing passengers to lose consciousness. This video from inside the plane in the air shows people calm, even after oxygen masks dropped. Then the plane suddenly lost altitude before crashing in a fireball in a Kazakhstan field. Some of the injured airlifted to Baku overnight. Now, as the people of Azerbaijan mourn the loss of the fallen, a U.S. official tells NBC News there are early indications the plane may have been hit by a Russian anti-aircraft system. Aviation expert Matthew Borey reviewed the footage and agrees.
The likely cause of the event is a misidentification and damage sustained from that.
Why are you
This comes
losing
after
so
a
much
Dutch
hair?
court recently concluded that a Malaysian Airlines
Why?
flight was brought down in
gonna be
2014
bald.
over Ukraine
Gonna be
by
a
a
bald
missile
pussycat.
fired by pro-Russian fighters. Ukrainian officials immediately blaming Russia for this crash too.
The Kremlin
Hey,
responded,
hey,
it would be
a lot of
incorrect
hair.
to make any hypothesis
That's a lot
before
of
the
hair.
investigation comes to conclusions.
Meanwhile, we know investigators are combing through the ground wreckage and aircraft data. Kazakhstan's transportation head say they recovered
off
a
the
second
table.
black box and will hand it over to the authorities. But at a minimum, that data will take at least 2 weeks to parse through. Christina?
Get
All
off.
right, Steve Patterson, thank you
Get
so
off.
much. And for more on this, joining us
Get
now is Jeff Gazzetti, former FAA and NTSB investigator. He's also, of course, an NBC News aviation analyst, and also U.S. retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, who served as the commander of U.S. Army Europe. All right, Jeff, I want to start with you. There's been a lot of open sourcing analysis of this plane going down, and there's a couple things you said that you're able to assess from that data that people can see on sites like FlightAware and tracking. One of those is aircraft control ability. Can you explain to us what that means and what it could indicate in the course of why this plane went down?
Certainly. Good morning, Christina. Yes, the ADSB recorded radar data indicates that the airplane was pitching up and down and having difficulties with controlling its altitude and its airspeed. And that, to me, indicates a controllability problem. And it's also seen in this video here that you're showing. Prior to the impact, you could see the airplane pitching up,
Table's
and
not
then
a bed.
pitching down, its nose going down, and then trying to pitch up again as it attempts this emergency landing. So controllability is absolutely an issue. And there's also open source indicating that the crew even indicated that they were having controllability problems. So to me, you've got many different pieces of evidence indicating a problem with the flight controls and the crew's ability to control the airplane.
You bite me one more time, you're going,
And
Cat.
General,
I'm telling
first
you.
the Kremlin said that they think it was a bird strike that caused the crash, and then just this morning, an aviation official with the Russian government said that Ukrainian combat drones were in the area where the plane was intended to land. What do you make of those statements?
First of all, why was Grozny Airport even open? I mean, if there were, as Russia has acknowledged, Ukrainian drone strikes going on in the area, why would a commercial airport still be open? To me, this is, of course, we're going to have to wait for the investigation, but I think the evidence points towards an air defense weapon that was used, the holes in the fuselage, the effects that Jeff just described so well. Those are consistent with an air defense missile strike, the type that detonates before it actually hits the aircraft, and that's what creates that sort of fragmentation. And look, it is complicated when you've got drones and a lot of things in the air, and if you don't have disciplined, well-trained air defense crews, these are the kind of things that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because even here in the U.S., we've seen airports as big as LAX shut down if there's a commercial drone somebody bought at Radio Shack too close to the flight line. Jeff, I also want to ask you about MH17, which was that Malaysian Airlines flight that was shot down by Russian-backed forces. This is all seeming very familiar to that case. There was a long investigation by Dutch investigators. They did say it was due to weapon systems that were from Russian-backed rebels, but the Kremlin never acknowledged that. How does that impact how investigators are going to look into this crash? And are we expecting it to follow a somewhat similar trajectory?
Well, Christina, the MH17 tragedy shed a lot of light on exactly what General Hodges just talked about. Conflict zones, commercial airlines flying in and out of conflict zones.
Because you were in Rush for a
there
while.
were recommendations made out of the MH17 Dutch investigation that apparently were not needed in this event, because General Hodges is correct. Grozny should have been closed. There was warfare going on at the time. The Dutch investigation of MH17 looked at the same splatter pattern of holes in the fuselage and did their best to present the facts from the black boxes, from the fuselage damage, to prove that a Russian separatist-backed missile brought down that Boeing 777. So hopefully the same type of International Civil Aviation Authority investigation will occur with this crash. It would be difficult to sweep this crash under the carpet and not conduct a thorough investigation like they did with MH17.
What do we expect they're going to be able to see on those flight data recorders? And it sounds like they're in the hands of the Kazakh government. Do they have the kind of investigators needed to analyze that data?
You know, ironically, I don't think they do. They rely on Moscow. They rely on a very robust accident investigation entity in Russia to download those. So Kazakhstan may decide to send them elsewhere, but we'll have to see what they do with both the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder.
Yeah, that could complicate the investigation. General, I also want to ask you, you know, if this was a Russian shoot down, do you think it was accidental? Do you think it was on purpose? And what does that say about the regime one way or the other?
Well, I meant to say earlier, kudos to the pilots, by the way, who managed to do what they did after being hit. That's why 25, 35 people survived this terrible incident. We're never going to get transparency from Moscow. They have never been clear on these kinds of things. They'll deny, distract before they would ever say, yeah, we screwed up here. But I think that's exactly what happened. Unless it turns out that there was somebody, one of the passengers was somebody they really wanted, I think this probably was a mix of incompetence and confusion in a very complicated situation. And, you know, we put a lot of effort into our air and missile defense crews, training on positive identification, making sure you don't have accidentally hit your own aircraft. And of course, we know this still happens, as happened just a few days ago out in the Red Sea. So it is difficult, and you've got to have transparency, disciplined, well-trained crews when you're doing this.
Yeah, you know, the plane was headed to Chechnya, but we have no indications there were any high-profile targets, you know, Muslim extremists that the Russian or any other government might have wanted to go after. Jeff, I also want to ask you, yesterday, Russian authorities briefly closed all 4 of Moscow's airports and another one about 100 miles from the city. And this was on the same day the Kremlin warned against speculating what might have caused, you know, the plane crash. What do you make of that? What is your take on why they would have done that?
Yeah, Christina, I don't know. Maybe that was coincidental, but why close airports in Moscow? And ostensibly it was due to safety reasons. I don't know if the two were related. The closure of those airports in Moscow. I really can't. Right now, I can't draw any kind of potential coincidence between the two.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate that. General, I want to ask you, generally, we were talking about it a bit earlier, but, you know, I'm sure you've been on flights around the Middle East where you look at the map and the plane is literally going all the way around this particular area or particular country, and that's because the pilots are trying to avoid conflict zones. But given the state of the world and global affairs right now, it seems like there are more and more places perhaps commercial flights shouldn't be going. What do you do about that? Is it safe to get on a commercial flight in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East? Should be taking this threat more seriously?
Yes, it is safe to fly in the airlines on which I travel. And I'm in an airplane probably the minimum twice a week, or somewhere here in Europe where I live, or back and forth to the States, of course. But these companies like Lufthansa, for example, or United or others are very careful about where they go. We know, for example, if you want to fly from Frankfurt down to South Africa, there is a very, very narrow window of where you can go because they are concerned about Russian mercenaries that are down in so many of the African countries. So airlines are very aware of those, and which is why they are careful to avoid it. Obviously, this adds to the cost and it adds to the fuel consumption, but nonetheless, I think the airlines, when they say that passenger safety is number one, they're serious about it. Certainly, that's my experience here in Europe.
I also want to ask you, General, you know, this all comes after Moscow unleashed another series of attacks on Ukraine on Christmas Day, really hitting the power grid, putting, you know, 500,000 people into the dark and cold. Between these attacks and the plane crash, does this tell you anything about the state of play in this conflict?
Well, what it should remind everybody that this is Russia and this is who you're dealing with. They don't give a damn about loss of civilian life. They are deliberately targeting civilian infrastructure and civilian populations all over Ukraine. Now, obviously, these are all violations of international law, but they know that they probably are not going to pay a real price for it unless we decide that they have to pay a price for it. I have to say, I thought it was a pathetic response when people were outraged. Oh my God, they did this on Christmas. Well, of course they did. They kill innocent Ukrainians every day of the year. And whether a child gets killed on Christmas Day or in the middle of the summer, it is a war crime. And so when we talk about negotiating with Russia, somehow we've got to find a peaceful solution. This is who you're dealing with. And we should have our eyes wide open that they will not live up to any agreement. They never have, unless there's a very, very strong, compelling peacekeeping force that can make them do that. Otherwise, they'll do what they have always done, which is thumb their nose at it. They'll play along for a year or two, wait for us to lose interest, and then they'll do what they want to do. So I'm not against negotiating, but we have to be smart and clear-eyed about who we're negotiating with.
All right. Jeff Gazzetti and retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, thank you both so much for joining us. And coming up, what you can expect if you're planning to travel today as storms hit parts of the country. We'll have a live report from Atlanta. Plus, new remarks on President-elect Trump's immigration agenda from his incoming border czar and what it all means for undocumented families. And the holidays may be over, but that doesn't mean the deals are gone. Where you can get the most for your money this week. We're back in 90 seconds.
Looking for a moisturizer that does more than just moisturize? Try Olay Regenerist for 10 benefits in every jar. Olay visibly firms, lifts, and smooths wrinkles by penetrating the skin to boost regeneration at the surface cellular level. Try Olay.
It's the most wonderful time with the kids jingle. Be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful.
Whether your phone's broken or old, we've got you. With Verizon, anyone can trade in any phone, any condition. It's your last chance to get iPhone 16 Pro with Apple Intelligence on us. And iPad and Apple Watch Series 10, all three on us. That's up to $2,000 in value. Only on Verizon.
You make good choices. It's a trait that runs deep. Like to step into big shoes and still walk on your own path. With ambition like that, you need someone who elevates advice to a craft. At UBS, we match your vision with insight and expertise to shape a unique outcome for you. Advice is our craft.
New Alka-Seltzer Plus 4 for 3 fizzy chews. Chew, fizz, feel better fast. No water needed. New Alka-Seltzer Plus fizzy chews.
This morning, severe weather is threatening travel plans from coast to coast as we head into another busy holiday weekend. Hundreds of flights have already been delayed or canceled today, with travelers now bracing for more storms this weekend. NBC's Marissa Parra joins us now from Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta. Marissa, how are things looking over there?
Hey, Christina. So I can tell you right now, things are looking good at this moment. This is projected to be, according to TSA, one of the busiest holiday travel days of the entire season. We know that Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson Airport is supposed to be the busiest airport in the world. Well, I will say at this time yesterday, it did look a little busier, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't see that change in a heartbeat. So we know that storms, of course, always threaten the potential of creating traffic jams, and that is exactly what we saw yesterday when we saw those storms really focus in on Texas. We're talking about Dallas and Houston as well. We did see a lot of delays and cancellations around the country with those flights that were supposed to be going into that area. And there was even a temporary ground stop in the local area. We know tornadoes had touched down, and that is something that we could see happen again with those storms that threaten not just today, but into the weekend. And we know what kind of domino effect that has. So even if you are in a part of the country that is not directly directly impacted. Of course, when it comes to flights, they run on a tight schedule that could still impact you. So keep an eye on that, of course. But when it comes to travel, of course, the majority of people take to the road. So it's not just, of course, TSA and air travel that we're looking at, road travel. So AAA projects that we're going to see an increase in travel. We're talking about, we had 2 days of minimal traffic on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, first day of Hanukkah. That was minimal. Well, I hope you enjoyed it because there's going to be a lot more people on the roads, especially today. So if you are looking to take to the roads, which we're expecting to be record breaking this year, just try to do so before 2 p.m. You still have time, you have a few hours, because they do expect the worst of the road travel to be between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. Christina.
All right, some of our team here is planning on trying to get home through an airport later this afternoon. I hope they're listening. Marissa Parra, thank you so much. Now let's get to a look at the forecast as we head into the weekend. Here's NBC meteorologist Denise Isaac.
Hello there, Christina. Well, today we do have a risk for severe weather across areas of the South, mostly between Mississippi, Alabama, and also the Panhandle of Florida. But it will be on Saturday when we do have a greater risk for severe weather, mostly the possibility for a few strong tornadoes, also wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour and damaging hail. This time will be for Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi. So make sure you do keep that in mind if you have travel plans. All that thanks to an active weather pattern that will continue to impact the nation. Today, we're tracking showers spreading towards the upper Midwest and the Ohio and River Valley. Then tonight into tomorrow morning, this system slides towards the northeast, where we could be seeing at least freezing rain, freezing drizzle around Vermont, New Hampshire, and even into Maine. By Saturday, a new area of low pressure develops, and that's the one that could bring the potential for very strong storms in the south. And then that area of low pressure moves towards the northeast on Sunday, bringing some downpours from Buffalo down to Charleston, and on the backside of it, some snow possible around Detroit, Michigan. Once we take a look at the rainfall forecast from now all the way through Sunday, some areas picking up 2 to 3 inches of rain. One of those cities, Asheville, North Carolina, certainly a city that doesn't need to see this much rain because that could lead to some flash flooding. As we slide now to the west, we're getting a break over the next couple hours, but tonight a new storm system moves in, bringing more rain and snow from Washington to California. And then tomorrow, another one comes back in with more rain and snow possible, and possibilities for rain across coastal towns here in California, especially Eureka. Talking about 5 inches of rain possible, other locations 3 inches inland. We're still dealing with some heavy rain, while the snowfall forecast, we're talking about up to 3 feet of snow possible. The Rockies, as well as the Cascades and the Sierras. So the active weather pattern will continue, especially this weekend, as everyone is trying to get home after the holidays. Back to you, Christina.
All right, Denise Isaac, thank you for that report. And this morning, we're learning new details about another airplane stowaway. On Christmas Eve, an unticketed passenger was arrested after being caught on a Delta flight bound for Hawaii. It comes just weeks after a different person snuck onto a flight headed to Paris. NBC's Morgan Chesky has more.
This morning, as millions prepare to fly back home post-holiday, security at Seattle's SeaTac Airport is now the focus of a federal investigation. The case opened following a Christmas Eve stowaway. Authorities say made their way onto a Delta flight bound for Hawaii without a ticket or even a boarding pass. The Delta crew discovering the unidentified passenger just before takeoff, prompting the pilot to return to the gate. The airline stating their staff followed procedures to have an unticketed passenger removed from the flight and then apprehended. Authorities sharing they used airport security cameras to track the individual into a bathroom after everyone deplaned.
It's scary, especially this time of year when there are so many passengers flying, and it makes it easier to make mistakes. Yeah, but it makes you think.
TSA confirming the person passed their standard screening and did not possess any prohibited items, but somehow bypassed the identity verification at boarding status stations.
There's no such thing as the perfect security system, but each time an incident like this happens, everyone must work together to strengthen those vulnerabilities.
It comes after another stowaway incident the day before Thanksgiving. Authorities say Svetlana Dali exploited security weaknesses at JFK International to board a Delta flight bound for France without a passport or boarding pass. The 57-year-old Russian national now facing federal stowaway charges. She has not entered a plea. Former TSA Director Keith Jeffries says determining intent is crucial. You see these incidents so close together. How does it strike you?
Well, it's certainly concerning because it's the holiday season and there's an extra vigilance put behind it with all of the elements involved in security.
New security questions amid a holiday travel rush that isn't over yet.
All right, lovely destinations, but please buy a ticket. Thanks to Morgan Chesky for that report. And up next, what Donald Trump's immigration plans are looking like for his first day in office. We'll speak with a leading lawyer from the National Immigration Law Center about what their next moves are going to be. You're watching MSNBC Reports.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back. Start to break away from UC with Tremfya, with rapid relief at 4 weeks. Tremfya blocks a key source of inflammation. At 1 year, many people experienced remission, and some saw 100% visible healing of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
Look out, 'cause here I come. Have you also had trouble with your weight? Same.
Discover the power of Wegovy. With Wegovy, I lost 35 pounds. Some lost over 46 pounds.
And I'm keeping the weight off.
I'm reducing my risk. Wegovy is the only weight management medicine proven to reduce risk of major cardiovascular events such as death, heart attack, or stroke in adults with known heart disease and obesity.
Don't use Wegovy with semaglutide or GLP-1 medicines or in children under 12. Don't take if you or your family had MT.
Sure, you're gonna make it till 3 o'clock. You always go to emergency care. Like I said, you got your deductible in. What are you doing? Meow. 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 Boop, boop, boop. Meow. A big yawn. A big yawn. Meow. Meow.
Meow. Meow. Meow. Meow.
Oh, shit. What's up, buddy boy? What? What? You tell me. Yeah, you tell me. Oh, nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. What happened then? Then what? That's it? That's all that happened? Okay. Who's a good kidders? Who's a good kidders? You gonna go get something to eat? Go ahead, get something to eat. What was I gonna do? I don't remember. Holy shit.
Eventually die from blunt force injuries. In 1989.
Sucks to be that lady. Oh, I guess.